Welcome back to another little episode of Jori Sports Stories. Today we're going to start our little detailed kind of into the NBA's worst of the worst. I had to think about the sentence. Sorry. We're going to first start off with our Spurs. Of course, the good old San Antonio Spurs who have some issues. Here's my thing that, here's my little take on them, to say the least. I don't know why I'm struggling to get my sentences out, but it is what it is. I'm going to get it out. As the time of my notes, they're still dead last in the West, but I think they've won like maybe two more games, so I might think they have 15, 16 wins already, but they have pretty much about 50 losses or something like that. 27th ranked offense, 24th ranked defense. Now, why? That's the big question. Why? Let's go to our roster and play style. Let's see what I have kind of. When I watch the Spurs, it's very clear to me that Victor Wembanyama is going to be very special. Very special. He's going to be special. Go get him some help now if you want to be better in the future. Help develop him and bring him along. Now, one thing I do know, and I might catch a little flack about this, is that he does need to put on some weight. I said this at the beginning of the season, of basketball season. He's going to need to put on some weight because right now, the way teams get him is they bully him in the paint, throw their weight around because he can't handle it right now. Sengun, that 45-point game, and he's doing pretty good as well. Bullied him in the paint. Just throwing his weight around. He has 50 pounds on him, even though he's way shorter. So that is probably going to be an emphasis, a focus for Wembanyama's offseason or whatnot. But he does need to put some weight on him. They're going to bully you. And another thing when I see Wembanyama is that he does things that only he can do early. With his size on both ends of the floor. The type of angles that he can get because of his size. Now, mind you, he's leading this team in both points per game and rebounds per game. So, yeah, he's the future. He's going to be something serious. Very much so. Now, my big question is, what is Jeremy Sohan do well that necessarily dictates him getting 30-plus minutes a night? Does somebody want to answer me that? Riddle me that. If you try running him at the point, no, because he's not that consistent. Try running him at the forward. Nada. I've seen it happen. And he isn't big enough to be a center, so what's the point? I mean, they're finding that out now, but these are things that I just pick up on watching the Spurs. Vassell and Johnson are probably the only ones that I think are worth keeping around Wembanyama. I think. And he's going to get the Rookie of the Year, Mr. Victor. But the one thing I did notice about this team as a whole is that their perimeter defense needs to improve. Maybe. Now, Victor can't do it all by himself. You're going to have to get a good solid wing to help him on that end. They get tore up defending screens. They get split way too easy. Even though Wembanyama does this he blocks shots. He's going to be special. I'm talking about the people around him. They get bullied for whatever reason. Now, coaching. Now, I love me some Pop. Pop knows what he's doing. So I think if you give him some better pieces to work with and help develop that number one, that Wembanyama, the Victor Wembanyama, who's showing why he was the number one, who's showing why he should get Rookie of the Year over Chet, who's really not a rookie. He's not a rookie. And the thing about this team is they're very competitive despite what their record shows. Their thing is they have a lack of talent. Let's just be flat out honest. They have a lack of talent. The front office, this is what you need to do if anybody wants to listen to my take about that, is you need a true point guard who knows how to facilitate, who could play off of Wembanyama, who can learn to play off of each other. You need a true point guard. Sohan and whoever else you got is not it. Period, point blank. Except for an occasional bucket. The 3 that you need to keep are probably going to be Victor, Vassell, and Johnson. The other 12, they either need some work or we need to start shifting pieces around. Because what I see from the Spurs needs help. And if we're going to really fix it, like I said, Victor's going to be a stud. Get him some help, a true point guard, some bigger, better pieces in the paint, people who are more consistent. He might need a veteran or two. I think he'll be good. The problem is that this team is very competitive. The problem is the talent. And he's going to need to bolster up a little bit because his interior defense can't be had. If we're going to have a objectively critical point of view. He can't be had in the paint. He can't be bullied. That's how you get him. And you need some, not just Victor, you need big bodies that can score in the paint as well as defend it. This team has some work to do. But I believe within the next 2 to 3 years, granted, pieces are going to start coming together. There might be some players who want to come and play with Victor Wembanyama to see what he's about. You never know. But as far as the Spurs are concerned, they definitely have a long road to toe. That's my thing on that. Next team up. As you see, you got a little change of the background. The Charlotte Hornets, who need help. They need some milk. And they've been plagued by plenty of bad decisions. Plenty of them. So, without further ado, now their record may have changed. They may have lost a few more games. I don't know. But they are 13th in the East. They are 15. At the time of my notes, they were 15 to 45. 28th ranked offense, 28th ranked defense. Why? Let's get into it. Talent, roster, play style. Let's get into it. To say the least, to say that this team is young is going to say the least. And they are also a Build-A-Bear franchise, meaning they take some of the most random pieces and put them together on the court. So they're a very young bunch, pretty much a Build-A-Bear NBA franchise. They aren't very good at anything. Let's just get that out let's just get that out the gate. They aren't very good at anything. They're average with their 3-point shooting, so when they're on, they're on. And Brandon Miller, he's going to be something, but he's at a bad franchise. You have below average field goal shooting, as well as field goal attempts. Everything does not have to be a 3. But there's a reason why they shoot a lot of 3s. Because if you really sit down and watch this team, like I have when I'm watching my highlights, trying to take my notes, trying to really gather information and insight, because sometimes I just don't have time to sit down and watch full basketball games. I'm hustling, That's neither here or there. But I try to watch enough to know. And it's usually at various points of seasons. When I'm on a highlight binge, I might watch 5 games worth of highlights, the last 5, so I can really see what I'm working with. Because the last 5 tell you everything that you need to know. Well, with the Hornets, the last 5 coincided with the previous 5 before that, and then it's pretty consistent of what they are, which is trash. So, as well as being below average on the free throw line, actually, they're the worst. And they don't get there very often either. They have below average rebounding from the floor. They don't play defense and they don't show much effort on defense either. That I have a really big problem with. And that's pretty much going in this league where people don't want to play defense. Man up. Stop being soft. Everything is not about threes and dunks. Play some brick up. Play some defense. Like I said, they're not very physical off the glass at all. They allow way too many second and third chance shots, and they don't get many themselves. And the way I see how Charlotte is kind of building their team, you're building around the wrong people. One, I'm not a Miles Bridges person. I'm a woman. We don't have to go there. I don't think he needs to be on the roster. And then you have LaMelo, who does nothing but shoot and cherry pick. And he's often injured. So it's like, this team is going to be very prone to sloppy play. Look at the type of people that they're trying to build this team around. Sloppy play. On both ends of the floor. And all they want to do is shoot. Which is the issue. Because when I watch, it's them and a few other teams. Who may or may not also be included in this video. But when I see Charlotte and I see them on the defensive end, they stand around looking like a bunch of mummies. They show no effort. And now that you got Grant Williams starting fights, what is that supposed to do for you? Are you thinking that that's the spark that you need to get the defensive identity of this team under control, even though they don't have a defensive identity because they don't play defense? They're just as bad, if not worse, than the Hawks on defense. Do we really? Is that the grain of salt that you want me to take? That you brought Grant Williams to pick fights and make people want to play defense. Because if you did that, you're done. Just saying. Grant Williams is not turning out the way he was supposed to. FYI. Anyway. Coaching. Again, some of this stuff may be redundant, but it's also not just attentive to the roster. It's also attentive to the coaching in your lineups. Like, minus Bridges, who is very physical. And I'm not trying to put a pun. He's very physical. The team isn't. Like I just went on a whole little mini rant about. The addition of Grant Williams does absolutely nothing but provide fouls. The poor effort on defense. Let's go into it. Perimeter defense is bad. Your paint protection is horrible. The floor spacing is absolutely pathetic. The rebounding isn't even there. You don't get a lot of second chance points. You let the other team get second or third chance points. Physicality and effort is an issue with this team. They don't want to do anything but shoot. I've seen it enough. And there's been so many people that's been trying to discredit me lately. But let me tell you something. Y'all don't watch. Y'all don't do what I do. You don't. Because who tortures themselves watching Hornets highlights? Because it's not minus the 3 and the occasional win and Brandon Miller having a decent season. There's nothing to watch. Like, and I don't just watch one game and think I know what I'm talking about. No, I've gone on binges throughout the season to kind of play catch up. I know exactly what I'm getting with the Hornets, which is a lack of effort, a lack of defensive discipline, and an unwillingness to try. Okay. So there's that. And then the front office has some things to do with this. Michael Jordan does have his hand in this, even though I know they got rid of him. First mistake, building this team around LaMelo Ball, who does absolutely nothing but shoot and get injured. And I'm not trying to be funny, but it's true. Second mistake, becoming an NBA Build-A-Bear workshop of a franchise. Can't nobody take you serious with Grant Williams only there to provide physicality and fouls. Third mistake, and let's be real, they've been absolutely pathetic at drafting and developing talent. Recently, they've done well, but in the past, no. And how would I personally fix this? And I gotta hurry up. I'm building this team, I'm building this team around Brandon Miller. He's consistent and he does play defense. He run that offense through Miller. Upholster that bench. They have no bench. Get somebody in there that coach-wise that preaches effort and physicality. Because whoever it is that's there now ain't doing it. Ain't cutting it. Just change the effort on defense and change the effort when it comes to rebounding. And go get pieces that have high basketball IQ. I'm tired of watching them run around with their chicken's head, like a chicken with their heads cut off. I'm tired of seeing it. Go get some pieces on the bench and at a starter level that have high basketball IQ, other than Brandon Miller. Thanks. Next up, we're going to talk, as you see, another little background change. We're talking about the Pistons. And excuse the typos for my handles. I'll fix that later when I do another one. But yeah, excuse that. We living with it today. We're gonna talk about the Pistons, and I know what is there to talk about with the Pistons, but I didn't torture myself watching 2 months worth of Pistons highlights to not share some knowledge with you. So you're gonna listen today. That's just how that's gonna roll. So all jokes aside, Pistons, last time I checked, they were 8-48. Now, the Pistons are one of those teams where their record really could be a heck of a lot better than it should be, than it is. I do have some sympathy for the Pistons because I have watched months of highlights and I get it. They had the 29th ranked defense, 25th ranked offense. Why? Well, despite Detroit being an abject organizational failure from top to bottom, here's the real reason why. If we're talking about the talent, the roster, the play style, what they do together, like the other team I just talked about, this is probably going after the Hornets. So the Hornets, they're very youthful to say the least. This team is not an NBA Build-A-Bear franchise. These are young players. These are players my age. I just turned 23. There's people who are 19, 20 on that team. Just to put that in perspective. You have Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duran, Jaden Ivey, Wiseman, etc. They are very guard heavy. This is where this team is really messing up at. They're very guard and forward heavy. They don't have a lot of size who's willing to really stick it in the paint. They don't. They have Bojan. Whatever. Y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. They barely have or don't have any centers. Or the ones that they do have, they aren't worth it. They're very questionable. Mine is Bogdanovich. I think I killed the pronunciation on that. The roster is constructed very poorly as it is. I'm glad that they got rid of Killian Hayes because why was he wasting everybody's time? He wasted his own time. And I'm really not trying to flame. Even though sometimes it do come out like that. I'm not trying to flame. The roster has been going through construction issues, under construction for years at this point. Why aren't they worth more than 2 cents? You can buy Pistons tickets for $2. Why aren't they more than that? You got all these young developmental pieces, and there's little to no development going on in Detroit. And if we're going to look at the roster and the team itself, once you get past the starters, what is going on here? There is a significant drop-off in talent from starters to backups. And that is an issue. Can I please call Isaiah Livers chopped liver at this point? No. I'm good on him. The fact that this team is competitive, it does speak to coaching. Now, Monty has his... We'll get into that in just a second. That's my next segment I'm going to get into. But they're very competitive. I do see... If we're going to go from bad to worse, I don't know if I've done my Wizards... No, I have not done my Wizards ones yet. Get it together, Jori. But if I'm going to watch Wizards highlights or Pistons highlights, I would rather watch Pistons highlights. Because I know they're going to fight. I know they're very competitive. The Wizards, I'm going to get into them in just a second. In a few minutes. This team is competitive. They have been on the wrong end of late game mismanagement by referees, like everybody else. But with Detroit... They have a valid argument that this happened to them more. Between Detroit and the Knicks. They can argue that. And next thing we're going to talk about as far as why this team is bad, coaching in their lineups. Now, I always had this thing, if Monty Williams knew what he was getting into, he probably would have thought twice. But he also had about 70 million reasons why to take the job. So I do not blame him. But I will be on the other end of the token. Sometimes Monty has not necessarily coached well, especially in late game situations. He hasn't necessarily found a consistent lineup that works well consistently. And that is because he was given a piece of bread, some mustard, and a hamburger, and and a hot dog, and was expected to make lasagna. What is he going to do with that? So I don't blame him for that. I really don't. Darvin Ham, on the other hand, this is not a Lakers video, but Darvin Ham, on the other hand, and his little dumb lineups, I'm about tired of them too. And I'm tired of that Laker defense. Back to the goddamn Dago Pistons. The lineups have been from bad to magical trash bad, which is horrible. Late game situations on Monty's side can be handled better. And this team is always fighting. They're always fighting for him. You can't say that the Pistons aren't playing for their coach, because they do. They do play hard for Monty. That's why I'm not putting this Detroit Pistons being a hot mess team completely on Monty. I believe that if the Pistons want something stable, you need to give him at least 2 to 3 more years and actually develop and build an NBA quality team with quality starters and NBA quality backups. How about we start there? It's not that hard. But this is how I personally would fix the Pistons. Before I get out of here with this team. They're way too guard and forward heavy, like I said earlier, to do anything worthwhile. Your lack of size and the lack of a big presence minus Bogdanovich leads to bad defense and poor paint play. They do need more true and quality centers, maybe younger. Mr. Bogdanovich is getting up there in age. And you can fix the ticky-tack lineups and spacing issues with a better roster. This is what I'm thinking about the Pistons. I'm like, I believe that Monty can coach this team up. He needs some better groceries. If you want him to make lasagna, you better go get him some better groceries and not what they've given him to work with now. Because some of this I'm seeing with the Pistons is just lack of basketball IQ. Maybe. They are very competitive. And they are better than what their record suggests. They do need to improve on how they develop these players, though. Especially with players of quality like Cade, Cunningham, Durant, etc. Do not waste their best years. Get it together. And now we're on to the Wizards. You don't get to see the team name. Again, misspelled stuff. Ignore that. It will be fixed next time. But if you pay attention to the two little pictures down there, we're talking about the Wizards right now. So, Mr. Kuzma, next time you decide to sit there and say, at this point, don't become that team, make sure you're not in the position to become that team, because now you and that clown show in the Wizards look really bad. Learn to stop tweeting. Like, that man got Twitter fingers. Always got something to say, but you realize that your team isn't very good either. When we're talking about, I would rather watch the Pistons play than the Washington Wizards. And it's mainly because of you and that other person that's coming off the bench now. Or the coach or whatever. We'll get into it in just a second. But I have tortured myself again watching Wizards highlights. And I'm not going to just sit here and stew on that. Somebody's going to listen to it. So, as these notes were taken, they were 9-48. How many games have they won since then? And I'll go back and I will redo the records. And I will put them in the description or in the comments so y'all get the updated records. Because these are kind of like old notes, but I've been sitting on them for a minute. And everything is still relevant because I've gone back to watch the dang on film. Everything I have on this paper is still relevant. And I did these a week ago. 28th ranked defense. 26th ranked offense. Why? As a collective, minus a few, the basketball IQ of this team is a -2.5. Can we get it at least to 0? When you watch this team play, just like some of the other teams I've mentioned in this video, no effort on defense at all, especially in the paint. I want to let y'all know how tragic and how torturous it was to watch them just standing around looking at somebody in the paint for 3 quarters. Just stand around. What is that? Like, just stand there watching like the world go by. What is that? And they did have a Jordan Poole problem. His problem was he let his head get too big from that time in Golden State. That's his problem. Who does nothing but cardio and shoot. He runs around, doesn't do anything as far as guarding anything, and shoot. And it may or may not go in. He was unhappy with coming off the bench, but you came off the bench when you were in Golden State at one point. Let's not get slick. You are not all of that. He doesn't have the structure in Washington to hide his deficiencies like he did in Golden State. So now they were cracks and they were on display in Golden State, but they're really on display now. They were until he got sent out somewhere. And this team does have talent. Kyle Kuzma, he's talented, he's competitive, but he's inconsistent. And watching Kyle Kuzma in the paint is also very painful. Mind you, I'm a Lakers fan. I know exactly what Kyle Kuzma is. He didn't change. You have Denny, who, when I talk Wizards, I'm always going to say free Denny, free Tyus. And they do have Bagley. But the rest of the team is sorely lacking. Sorely lacking. Let's see. Lacking. Force placing around the basket is bad. You can't have 3 defenders around 1 person unless you're trapping. But even then, that's limited to 2. Usually. Excuse me. I don't know everything, and they usually don't trap like that anymore. So why are we leaving more than 1 player wide open? Wide open. They don't even try to play defense. They think defense is optional. And watching the Wizards play is just literally, I would rather watch paint dry. It was very torturous. It was bad for my mental health. I'm kidding. But I did have to go put on some quality basketball after. And I might not be talking about Lakers basketball because they haven't been playing consistent quality basketball either. But this is not about the purple and gold. This is about the Wizards with Mr. Bubblecoat Kyle and his don't be that team. And they've just become that team. You run your mouth too much. Rant aside, because I know I got way off target. The floor spacing leads to bad rebounding. They don't rebound very well. When we're talking about coaching, the whole philosophy of this team needs to change. They are not very physical. They are more shifty than anything. Now, Jordan Poole, I will give credit where credit is due. That is one thing we know about me. He's very shifty. They're very shifty than anything. They're not physical, they're shifty. They can be this team is undisciplined. Bad shots, turnovers. Whatever the heck that is that they do in the paint. Because it ain't defense. The perimeter defense might be poor too, if we're being completely honest. And then they show no effort on that end. They've got to get away from running around trying to shoot the lights out and running a whole bunch of pick and rolls. In my opinion, with the way Denny has been playing, run it through him. Damn it. Run it through him. He also, at that point in time, he did need to attack the basketball, the paint more, but he's gotten better at that as the weeks has gone. He's had his games. He will attack the paint. He will rebound. Now, how would you fix this though? You need more size. We need to improve the defense by tenfold. You need more discipline with their threes. They're very undisciplined when it comes to their threes as well. Not just as a game, just the whole 3-point thing that they do, they're undisciplined when it comes to that. You need to change the philosophy. You need to put some actual culture that takes pride in stopping people from scoring instead of just watching in the paint as the world goes by. And the bench. They need a bench. Improve the bench. Have Jordan Poole Run the bench unit. I don't know. I'm not the basketball aficionado. But when I watch the Wizards, I try to figure out so many issues to solve so many problems. And these are just some of the ways I would do it. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, respectfully let me know. Because I do clap back. And I do check folks. And now, we're going to talk about the Grizzlies. Clearly, background change. I kind of like the whole new background for each new team thing. It lets me let my little brain, play with stuff, Be creative. I'm a very creative person. The next team we're going to talk about, we're not going to get into my creativity. We're going to talk about basketball. We're going to talk about the Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies, and what I think their biggest issues are and why they are the way that they are. Because they are the way that they are. I don't know why, but today I just feel really goofy. It might be the makeup. I don't know. Grizzlies. At the time of note-taking, they were 21-41, 13 in the West. Now, if you got to the last segment, you know what I'm going to do is because I know these were done a little bit and records have changed. I'm going to do an updated record for each of the teams, and I'm going to put it either in the description or I'm going to put it in the comments. So just bear with me here. 30th ranked offense. 10th ranked defense. Why? Well, that's a very good question, and that's a very broad question, and I can break it down anyway. There's going to be 3 things that you're going to know from watching the segment. 1, I don't think Taylor Jenkins should have a job. I've been talking for a long time. I don't think Taylor Jenkins is the coach of the future for this team if they really want to do something serious. 2, I think this team, minus Ja and Desmond Bane, is very boneless. 3, they have talent. Those 3 things you're going to get from here. So, I'm going to get more detailed into it. So, to answer why they are the way that they are, because they are the way that they are, let's ask another very big question. Why doesn't this team seem to function at all when you're missing either Ja and Desmond? Now, if they had Desmond Bane, I feel like they'd be a little bit better off. But because you're missing Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, they're way off. Their defense doesn't even function. Even though in the past they've defensively been better with Ja off the court. But this year, they had to go 25 games without him, and then he gets hurt. So they're really screwed. But the reason why I feel like this team shouldn't be as bad as they are without Ja is because they have plenty of talent. That's the thing. I see talent everywhere on the Grizzlies. Young talent that could do something, really. But that really makes the whole subtraction factor really astonishing. Because it's like you take Ja or Desmond or both of them away, and this team doesn't have a backbone. They don't know what they're doing. Seems like. It's two different teams. It's like Ja's the only person that can create their own shot, which I know isn't true because they still have talent. Marcus Smart, however, has been a decent addition to this team when he is healthy. And I bet they would have wished they kept Tyus Jones. I'm not going to ignore that part. I bet they would have wished they kept Tyus Jones. Like, when I watch the Grizzlies play, like, with each team in here, in this video, that you see me go on these little 6 to 7, 9 to 10 minute rants, I'm talking about them. I've actually watched a whole bunch of footage and film just to see what so I could really get into it. I've pretty much watched a whole season worth of film, considering what I do. And no, not the whole season. Pretty much half the season's worth of film. Because I have 2 jobs, because I don't have time, and sometimes I just want to go to sleep. But that's not neither here or there. So I do watch this team play. Their best bet is their best defense is to get into transition and get that offense rolling. Well, their best defense is their transition offense. That's the way I want to put it. To prevent a defense from truly getting set. Once the defense has time to get set, this offense ain't no good. And with Ja, you didn't have that. This team sputters and stalls. That's why. And another reason why is their coaching. Like, Taylor Jenkins. I will give credit where credit is due. We all know that. This is a top 10 defense. And they do well with transition ball movement. And that's about it. Concerns? 1, he hasn't adjusted very well with the loss of Ja Morant, no matter how many times it's happened at this point. He condones immature behavior. He doesn't have the cachet as a coach to tell people to cut it out or to knock it off when it's necessary. And why can't this team run a set offense very consistently without Ja or Bane, with the talent on that roster, with the G.G. Jacksons, with whoever? Why can't they run a set offense very consistently? Front office, because they have a play into this too. This team is very injury prone, though. I will say that. They're very injury prone. They should not have traded away Tyus Jones. Smart has been a very decent addition when healthy, like I said before. Riddle me this, though. Why? Like, the big question that only the Grizzlies know is, why does this team have no direction without Ja? No direction. And why do they fall off like that? And it's not like Jenkins hasn't had the whole season to try to figure something out. He's lost Ja 2 to 3 months ago, if I'm being completely honest. Why haven't they figured something out yet? That's the question. Because when I look at the Grizzlies, I also look at the 76ers, who's also missing Joel Embiid, but his injury was rather recent. And they're starting to try to figure something out in Philly over there as well. Hopefully Tyrese Maxey is okay. But they need to do something different up in Memphis. They do. Because if we're going to ask Jori how she would fix the Memphis Grizzlies, I think a coaching change is going to be necessary. You don't need a yes man. You need somebody who can get through the players, get them to grow up, and be able to put their foot down when needed and develop this talent and actually lead these players. You need somebody with a voice. I don't know if Jenkins has that voice. And you would prefer to get a veteran head coach, to be honest. Because with the youth on that team, you need somebody with some sense in that locker room. And you need to develop your young talent, and instead of just letting them run rampant, which I have seen with the Grizzlies multiple times. And learn to adjust how to play without your stars. One thing the Lakers have done, though, is adjusted to playing without Bron, without an AD when he's not there, available. So they've adjusted. The Grizzlies, it's just been run on the court, run off the court, let's go on the bus and go home, ever since Ja. They don't care. I don't think so. They don't try enough, to be honest. That's the way that it looks to me. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I will gladly admit that I'm wrong. But it's 2 different teams. That's just how I put it. Last, but definitely not least of the teams we're going to kind of cover today is going to be the Portland Trail Blazers. At the time of taking notes, they were 18-45, 28th ranked offense, 21st ranked defense. Why? Like another one of a lot of these teams, they're very young. They're very youthful. They are actually trying to build around Scotty Barnes, which it could work out. I believe it could work out if they get the pieces. They have very young pieces like Scoot, who's 19, Anthony Simons, who's 24, Shaden Sharp, Tumani Kamara, who's a starter, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good too. I love him. They have a lot of young talent. Now, my biggest thing about the Trailblazers is, why is DeAndre Ayton starting? Arguably should not be starting. He should be coming off the bench. I believe if you put Scoot out there, put Scoot in his place. I've been trying to see more Scoot Henderson anyway. I don't know what the Portland Trailblazers are doing. And they are just as confused as their style of basketball play is as well. Again, they don't run a good offense. They're not shooting very well. Sometimes some of their key players, they are hurt. They do get hurt. So injuries is a problem. I don't know who their coach is, but he's got some things to work on with this team, with this group. Especially on the offensive end. Especially when it comes to rebounding off the glass. I feel like this video has been a repetitive thing. These teams, they don't want to play. It's like they have players that don't want to play the fundamental way to play basketball, which is rebound, get physical, play some ding-dang on defense. All these young players that are my age or younger, because there are people younger than me in the league, all they want to do is run around and shoot and create their own shot and flex and screen. That's fine and dandy. But you're being paid millions to play basketball, to be sound in basketball, to be fundamentally sound, not to have problems with effort on defense and rebounding. But all they want to do is run around and shoot a ball. I get so sick and tired of seeing it. And DeAndre Ayton is definitely soft. Like, I've seen, like, they're really adjusting to life with this team. The Portland Trailblazers is adjusting to life without Damian. Mr. Diva, who's in Milwaukee tearing it up with Giannis. They've gotten it together a little bit. But we're not talking about the best teams. We're talking about the worst. And now I see why. Portland hasn't been noteworthy, but they are starting to put the pieces together. I do think they might need some more pieces on that bench. I do think that DeAndre Ayton needs to go somewhere. I just don't like DeAndre Ayton. For whatever reason, I cannot get into it. He's soft. He plays when he plays hard when he wants to play hard. I can't get into that. This Portland Trailblazer team is just like a lot of these younger teams. Sometimes they act like defense is very optional, and it's not. They do need some size. I do agree. When people say Portland needs size, they do. And they probably don't need any more guards. You don't need any more guards or forwards. Go get you a quality center, a big, who will dominate their presence in the middle. That's what I see when I see the Trailblazers. They've always done this thing where we don't know exactly what the Portland Trailblazers are doing. And I think they do this on purpose. Unless the front office is just inept. They have quality pieces. They need to figure out how to put it together. And that's something that Portland hasn't done. They've never really figured things out to put it together to go on the deep quality playoff run. They're not going to the playoffs winning 18 games and everybody's winning high 40s. They're not going. They're basically eliminated. So, what does this team need to do as far as getting the best out of the talent that they do have, that they've traded for, that they've been cooking up? over there in Toronto. I mean, not Toronto. Hell. Portland. I don't know what they're doing. That's just not... It's something about... There's certain organizations that you could just say it'll never happen, and Portland is pretty much one of them. Because for whatever reason, they fail to put together the pieces, or they have the pieces and they fail to make it work for whatever reason. Whether it's the front office, the coach, the players, whatever reason, is not conducive to winning games when it matters most. They had Dame time for all those years, and he was getting these paychecks and just sucking it up. And it wasn't conducive to winning basketball. And we all know what Dame Lillard can be when he decides he wants to play. And Dame Lillard, I will give him his props. He's actually been showing more effort on defense. I am proud of him. Because he didn't play a lick of it in Portland. And that continues to be their issue. But that's neither here nor there. I will say before I get out of here, because I am finna get out of here, I've probably been talking for about a whole hour. It's time for me to go. But if you liked what you heard, feel free to follow me on social media. If you see these little things, my Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter, TikTok is at Jori Denise, Denese. Y'all should know how to spell Jori. It's actually right there. Duh. Anyway, give us a like. Make sure you leave us a comment. Make sure you subscribe. If you like what you heard, if you disagree a little bit, be respectful. I do clap back in the comments. You guys stay blessed, stay grounded, stay safe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.